When I was in middle school, my mom and I did a social program called PEERS. While my mom met with other parents, I met with their sons or daughters to learn and practice how to make and keep friends. Some of the topics we practiced included how to enter a group conversation, or the appropriate sense of humor, and how to deal with teasing and gossip. Some of the things I already knew how to do, but this class helped me to be more aware and interacting with others. I used these skills with my coworkers and the public at my job operating roller coasters and other rides at an amusement park.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Jasper Estabillo, a clinical instructor and postdoctoral fellow at the UCLA PEERS Clinic, as well as a postdoctoral scholar in the UCLA Department of Psychology. I'm thrilled to be presenting on conversation skills for adults, lessons from the UCLA PEERS program today. So just a little bit of agenda setting. We'll begin with the PEERS background and some of that background on our programs. And we'll get into one of the skills that we cover within our programs, which is conversation skills, specifically focusing on starting individual conversations. And then we'll wrap things up with conclusion and share some resources as well for you. So to begin with a bit of PEERS background, PEERS is an international program that was developed at UCLA by Dr. Elizabeth Logson in 2004. Our programs have been translated into over a dozen different languages, and it's currently utilized in over 85 countries worldwide. We have several evidence-based social skills programs that are running clinically, including our PEERS for Preschoolers programs for children that are 4 to 6 years old, PEERS for Adolescents for teens 12 to 17 years old, and then PEERS for Young Adults, which is for adults aged 18 to 35. In addition to our clinical programs, we also have a few research programs that are currently being conducted, including PEERS for Careers, which targets job and vocational soft skills, PEERS for Dating, which is a full program focused on dating and romantic relationships, and then PEERS Dopo, which is a medication enhancement to one of our interventions. So, a few unique aspects about PEERS. PEERS is actually one of the only evidence-based social skills programs, and it is the only evidence-based social skills program for teens and adults that are on the autism spectrum and with other social skills challenges. One of the biggest benefits of PEERS is that it is parent or caregiver assisted, meaning that parents and other caregivers are trained as social coaches, and this really helps facilitate that generalization of treatment gains outside of the treatment setting. Within the program, we teach ecologically valid social skills, meaning that we teach some concrete rules and steps that are followed by socially successful people in the real world. So that's that ecologically valid component. We also have evidence of long-term maintenance of treatment gains. So in the domains of social functioning, social engagement, and social skills knowledge, we see those gains maintained 1 to 5 years post-conclusion of the program, which is very meaningful. Additionally, PEERS is cross-culturally adapted across the globe, with currently 7 scientific papers published outside of the US. I want to share a few of the skills that we cover within the programs. So in the domains of social skills, those friendship and romantic relationships, the text that's in the black are skills that are covered in both our teen and young adult programs. So things like finding and choosing friends, conversational skills, starting and entering conversations, which we'll be discussing today, exiting conversations, electronic communication, appropriate use of humor, and get-togethers. They're covered in both our teen and young adult programs. Young adult program also includes how to find and choose romantic partners and some dating etiquette skills. So things like how to let somebody know that you like them, asking them out on a date, how to organize a plan a date, and some general dating do's and don'ts. Within the teen program, we include a lesson on good sportsmanship. In addition to those friendship and relationship skills, we also cover some skills related to managing conflict and rejection. So within both the teen and young adult programs, we cover handling disagreements, one of my favorite lessons to lead, as well as handling direct and indirect bullying. And then in the young adult young adult program, we have some dating etiquette skills. So handling rejection, how to turn somebody down for a date, and how to handle unwanted dating pressure. For teens, we also include a lesson on how to change a bad reputation. All right, so let's talk about the specific skills that we're going to be discussing today, which is how to start and join conversations. So a question I'd like everyone to think about is, what are most young people told to do to meet new people? Right? Let's think about what's been some advice that we've been given in the past, maybe by some adults, teachers, parents, because the truth is oftentimes we are given bad advice. Right? And this might be something like just go up and say hello, or just go up and introduce yourself. However, does that usually work? Not really, right? So how do we start conversations with other people? And to start things off, let's think about what some social errors might be when someone's trying to start a conversation with another person that they don't really know. So let's watch this first role play. And we're going to be focusing our attention on Alina, who's going to be the woman in the black shirt with blonde hair. So let's watch this first role play and pay attention to what she's doing wrong and trying to start this conversation with the other person.
Hey, do you ever go roller skating?
What?
Do you go roller skating?
No.
Why not? You should go.
Okay.
It's really fun. I go like every weekend.
Sweet.
There's this new skate park that just opened up.
I'm trying to watch something right now, so...
Oh, well, I'm just saying. It's really fun. They have like a student night every Thursday.
Cool.
You should definitely go.
Okay.
Okay, so what were some of the things that Alina was doing wrong? She just interrupted the other person. She came out of nowhere. There was no context really. And she kept talking about roller skating. Did it seem like the other person cared about roller skating? No, right? So there was really no reason for Alina to be beginning this conversation with the other person. Then let's talk about some of the perspective taking questions on the screen. Starting off with, what was that like for the other person? Frustrating, annoying, maybe a little bit confusing. Right? She didn't really know why Alina walked up to her. And then the second question is, what did she think of Alina? Kind of annoying, maybe a little bit awkward, and maybe kind of pushy too, because she kept talking about roller skating and there was no reason to talk about roller skating. And then the last question here is, would she want to talk to Alina again? What do we think? Probably not. Right. And so this is the bad example. Do not be an Alina. So instead, we have these concrete rules and steps for how to begin an individual conversation with another person. So the first step, since you don't want to just barge up to somebody like Alina did in that last role play, the first step is to casually look over. So this is your kind of means to see if this other person is someone that you might want to start a conversation with. And it also kind of indicates interest that you might want to begin this conversation. So you're going to casually look over and you don't really want to stare. Then the second step, because you don't want to be staring at somebody, and that would be a little bit too much, is to use a prop. So this breaks your eye contact with the other person. So a good prop might be something like your phone, right? You can pretend to be texting or watching a video, sending an email, reading an article, right? You can use a prop. If you're at a coffee shop, you can use your laptop or a book, right? The thing about the prop, though, is that the prop needs to make sense. So a phone is a good prop, but something like my pen, not a good prop. That does not make sense why I would be staring at my pen, right? So use a prop that makes sense. Then while you're casually looking over it and using that prop, your goal is to find a common interest. So a common interest is very, very important because this is going to be the reason for why you're starting this conversation with the other person. And in our programs, we really highlight that common interests are the foundation of any relationship, whether it's a friendship or a romantic partnership. So your goal, again, to find that common interest. This is your in for starting that conversation. Then, now that you've done all of this background work by casually looking over, using that prop, finding that common interest, now you're ready to begin this individual conversation with the other person. So you're going to do this by mentioning that common interest. And there are 3 different ways to mention a common interest. You can either make a comment, ask a question, or give a compliment. So for example, if I was at a coffee shop and I saw somebody wearing, a T-shirt that had a logo from my favorite TV show, right? So I could make a comment by saying, last night I watched that episode, right? Or I could ask a question and saying something like, "Hey, did you catch last night's episode?" Or I could give a compliment by saying something like, "Oh, I love that TV show. That shirt is awesome." right? So you can mention that common interest by either making a comment, asking a question, or giving a compliment. Then, because you have this common interest and you've already mentioned it, you're going to be trading information. And that is really our peers lingo for having that reciprocal conversation. So you trade information by asking questions, asking follow-up questions that are on that topic, answering your own questions, right? This is really that back and forth and having a conversation, that two-way conversation. And then this entire time that you're trading information, you also want to be assessing interest. So figuring out if the other person's also interested in having a conversation with you. Oftentimes people say that they pick up on a vibe or an energy or it's a feeling if you know that the other person's interested in talking with you, but it actually breaks down into concrete things that you can pay attention to. So are they looking at you? Are they facing you? And are they talking with you? Right? We have those nonverbal signals like eye contact and body language, as well as those verbal signals like conversation. And you want to ask yourself not only is the other person doing these things, yes or no, but what is the quality of things like their eye contact? Are they maintaining eye contact with you, or are they just looking up and glancing every so often? They keep looking on their phone, right? And that might not be a good sign. So after you assess your interest, or after you actually do all these steps 1 through 6, then finally, if it makes sense, it's optional. You can introduce yourself. So you could say something like, by the way, my name is Jasper. It's great to meet you. Right? So now that we know the steps for how to begin an individual conversation, let's watch this next role play and pay attention to what Alina is doing right this time.
Oh my God, I love that song.
Yeah, me too. This is the new video that just came out today.
No way, I'm dying to see that.
Yeah, it's so good.
That's awesome. Have you ever seen her in concert?
I have. I actually have tickets for her upcoming concert.
No way, the one that's coming up in 2 weeks?
Yeah, it's gonna be so great.
That's so cool.
Have you ever seen her perform?
No, I wish. I really want to.
Oh my gosh, she's amazing in concert. You need to see her.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. By the way, I'm Alina.
I'm Jordan.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, so what did Alina do right in beginning this individual conversation? Step 1, she casually looked over, right? She didn't just walk right up to the other person like she did in the last role play. Step 2, she used a prop, right? She had that library book and she put it on the shelf behind the other person. Step 3, she found that common interest. What was that common interest? It was a musical artist, right? Then step 4, to begin this conversation, she mentioned that common interest. And she did this by giving a compliment. She said, oh my God, I love that song, right? And then after that, she traded information. They talked about if they'd ever seen that artist in concert, right? And it was a back and forth conversation. And then we assessed interest. The other person was looking at Alina. She was facing her. She was also talking with Alina. So these are all great signs. She was definitely interested in having this conversation with Alina. And then at the very end, Alina introduced herself. She said, by the way, my name is Alina. And so she followed all these steps for beginning an individual conversation. Okay, let's jump into these perspective taking questions. So what was this like for the other person this time? Really pleasant, natural, really easy conversation, right? What did she think of Alina? Really nice, friendly, good conversationalist, maybe good taste in music. And would she want to talk to Alina again? Yeah, probably, right? This seemed like a really great conversation. Okay, so that was a few steps for how to begin an individual conversation in person. We have some modifications, right? Especially now during these times that we're living in where most of our interactions are occurring online. So here are a few modifications for individual conversations online. First step, since you don't want to just be staring, is you're still going to casually look over, right? So this means that you're not just going to be staring into the depths of your camera, right? So you're going to casually look over. Step 2 is you're still making that goal of trying to find that common interest. So it could be something like what that person is wearing, or maybe if they're at home or in a certain location, you can make a comment on what you see in the background. Right? Maybe they have some posters or a pet with them, right? That is the way to find a common interest. Then to begin that conversation, you're still going to mention that common interest, right? Like, oh my gosh, what a cute puppy. Or, I also have cats, right? So you can mention that common interest to begin that conversation. You're still going to be trading information as well as assessing interest, right? This is still very important. And the ways that we assess interest are a little bit different online, right? Because people are typically going to be facing their camera or their phone or their laptop. So you want to pay attention to if they're attending to you. So that eye contact, right? Are they looking at you on the screen, or does it seem like they're kind of focused on emails or other things that are on the screen? And as well as, are they talking with you? And then at the very end, if it makes sense, you can introduce yourself, right? We don't need to introduce ourselves in every single conversation, but if it makes sense, then you can introduce yourself in that same way. All right. So to wrap things up, we just want to highlight that it is important to support friendship and relationship skills in across the lifespan, right? So supporting friendship and relationship skills continues to be of high importance for any individual who has some social skills challenges. And these skills should be taught utilizing methods that help individuals learn. So including things like breaking things down into concrete rules and steps. So that way we understand and know how to follow those rules in any domain of social skills. We also want to include some perspective taking questions. So what does this feel like for the other person? How might our behaviors impact the other person, right? All these perspective taking questions are very important. And we want to provide some opportunities for in vivo practice. So that way the individual who's learning social skills can receive some feedback. Right? So it's very, very important to have multiple opportunities for practice and feedback. And we also want to include some assignments and social coaching to promote that skill generalization outside of the treatment setting. So in that individual's real world and their day-to-day life. And we also want to highlight that it's necessary to continue teaching these ecologically valid social skills across the lifespan. So from our itty bitty kiddos all the way up through adulthood. And it's very important to teach those skills based on where they're at developmentally, as well as the settings and social interactions that are the most applicable to them. All right, so that concludes our talk for today. I'm going to share a few resources. So the first set of resources here on the screen include some scannable QR codes if you're interested. So on the left, we have our video role play library. So if you love those videos of our girl Alina for those inappropriate and appropriate skills, you have access to these role play videos, and they include conversation skills and all of the skills that we covered in our programs. On the right, we have a living document, which is online social activities that our clinic is continually adding to. And so these are ideas for online social activities and get-togethers to promote social engagement for people who are looking for some activities to do remotely. We also have our clinical groups that are ongoing, our telehealth groups. We are running them throughout the week. So we have our UCLA PEERS for Adolescents telehealth groups, 16-week program that targets making and keeping friends and handling conflict and rejection. This meets on Wednesdays, and we have 2 groups that meet. So we have a 4:30 and a 6:30 group. We also have our young adult programs. If you want to see me on Monday evenings, we're a 16-week program that targets making and keeping friends and developing romantic relationships. Again, we are Monday evenings, and we have 2 groups, a 4:30 and a 6:30 group. We also have our peers educational classes. So this is a 16-week program with an optional 4 weeks of dating skills. We have both a teen and young adult group. And this is available for participants across the globe on Tuesday evenings. Again, we have 2 groups that run on Tuesdays, 4:30 and 6:30. For individuals who are unable to commit to a full 16-week program, we also offer our Peers Virtual Bootcamp, which is 35 episodes that cover all of the skills that we teach in Peers. You're able to go at your own pace. It's available on our YouTube channel, and your access never expires. For those who want a little bit more background, we have a book written by Dr. Lageson, The Science of Making Friends, Helping Socially Challenged Teens and Young Adults. It's a parent group that has a lot of really great content if you're interested in learning more of that background in fostering skill development. And we also have several teleconferences for any of the professionals that are in the audience who are interested in getting certified in our intervention. So we have a young adult conference, as well as conferences for teens and school-based professionals. Definitely email us if you're interested. I don't have any updated dates here in the slides, but we should have some updated dates in the next coming months. And as always, if you're interested, please feel free to reach out to the clinic. You can reach the Peers Clinic at peersclinic@ucla.edu. You can reach out to us via social media, and you can email me directly at my email address, jestabillo@mednet.ucla.edu. Thank you all for your time and attention. And then I look forward to our Q&A section in just a few moments. Thank you, everyone.